Okay, for today's remote lesson, I'm going to introduce a topic that you may be completely unfamiliar with or you may be thoroughly acquainted with. So, first, I will say that the assignment will be to create a resume and to submit the link to your resume. Some of you may already have a resume. And if you already have one, if you had to make one for another class, or if you used one in like real life or something radical like that, then you are welcome to submit your resume that you already have, and voila, yay, you're done with the assignment. So for the resume assignment, because there's probably going to be a lot of variety, I am going to grade it pretty much purely on like, did you turn in something remotely competent and related to the assignment? So I don't want you to stress that like you haven't had a lot of job experiences or you don't have a lot of stuff to put on the resume. Just keep it honest, keep it truthful. If you have made a resume previously and you submit yours to me and I see that it's really lacking some important information, then I will definitely comment on it and let you know. If nothing else, I can pretty much guarantee that you will need a resume next year for applying for scholarships and also for English 4. I know at least Mr. Buter usually requires students to do a resume and a mock interview, as well as provide a cover letter and references. So senior year, it will become a little bit more crucial. But for now, I have been informed that it is a good thing to have prepared for junior year. And if you do not have a resume, I'm going to use this presentation to explain resumes to you, and I'll also throw in some cover letter and references information and even some interview tips just as a bonus in case you do actually have a real life thing that you are trying to prepare for. Once I am done going over the resume presentation, I have a resume template for you, which you are welcome to use. Obviously, you will have to, copy and paste this into a document of your own and put like your name and your address and your phone number. I promise I won't call you. And your email address and, all of your personal information. So this is what the template looks like for when you are ready to take advantage of it. But first, I will talk about some life skills because life is important too. Okay, step 1, heading. I'm sure you noticed at the top of my sample resume, you have your name. It should be big. It should be noticeable. It should be spelled correctly. It should be nothing too fancy as far as font. Don't go crazy with the cursive or anything like that. Underneath your name in smaller font, you should have accurate contact information. So this will include your permanent address, and if you're like away in college or something, you can also list a temporary address. It should include a phone number that you can be contacted at, and of course, make sure that if someone were to call you, you have an appropriate voicemail or ringback tone, nothing that would make them not want to consider you. And an email address that you check regularly. I hope that by now you have an email address that you check regularly. You are welcome to put your school email address on there, but just of course keep in mind that after you graduate, your school email address will be discontinued. So if you do choose to use your school email address, then just make sure to change it in a couple of years. All right, step 2, education. So right now, your education probably consists of, Forbush High School. Maybe if you've attended another high school and transferred, then you may have a couple of things on there. The education section will obviously be much more important once you get into college or colleges, depending on how many colleges you end up attending. You don't need to list anything before high school. No one is impressed by your middle school typically. High school education is usually only listed not so much for the school, but for your expected graduation date, so they know when you'll be out of high school. And if it is relevant, and would enhance your standing in someone else's mind, then you can put your GPA. Now, obviously, if you have a rubbish GPA, then don't put your GPA. But if it would be a good thing to have on there, you can put your GPA. And you can use your weighted or unweighted. Some people like to put their weighted GPA because it shows that they've been challenging themselves with difficult classes, that sort of stuff. Let's see. So you would list, of course, your school name, Forbush High School, and you would put the city and state that your school is in. That is East Bend, North Carolina. Yeah. And I assume your expected graduation date is probably May of 2022, if I had to guess. Okay, section 3, experience. So, experience is kind of a broad term, and the reason it's called experience rather than jobs is that many things that are not jobs can still qualify as experience. Now, if you've had any paying jobs before, absolutely put those down. But if you have engaged in volunteer work, internships, babysitting, that sort of stuff still qualifies as experience, even if you weren't, on a regular paycheck receiving basis from an organization. If you are applying for something specific, you'd want to put your most relevant experience first, and of course, your most recent relevant experience. But since I'm not really having you apply for anything, you can just list them in order of recency, starting with your most recent first. You never want to have more than 3 experiences on there because it just starts to get cluttered and your resume starts to become more than a page. And if your resume isn't like one scannable page, then a lot of times employers will just kind of whoop and just say, nobody's got time for that. So for each job or experience that you provide, you should list the company name, if there is a company name, company location, your position title. You may not have had an official position title, but feel free to make up one that is accurate for what you did and sounds fancy and stuff. You will want to put the years or months that you worked there, and then you would want to put a concise list of your responsibilities. Your responsibilities are typically bulleted. They are also typically fragments. So you don't usually say, I did blah, blah, blah. You just say, handled customer transactions. It's very kind of robot sounding. Not sure why that's the convention, but less words the better. More easy to scan, I suppose. Okay, skills. So you should have a skills section, and this could include hard skills like languages, computer programs, typing speed, degrees, certificates, kind of the practical stuff that you could kind of very, can't think of a word other than practically, you could practically utilize for a job. Like I know if you do like some of the CTE classes, sometimes you can get certain like certificates or certifications, ServSafe certification and stuff like that. Those types of things that you could say, ta-da, look, I have some proficiency in this. Now, the other type of skill that you can list are soft skills. So soft skills are personality qualities that would make you an ideal worker. Now, don't list personality qualities that you don't have. My husband, for example, should not list patience as one of his soft skills because he does not possess it. It would be misleading. But he has many other wonderful skills. He's hardworking, ambitious, very motivated. Things like that can qualify as soft skills. So think about what qualities you have that make you a good worker. All right. Activities and honors is not a necessary section. It is the only section that I will say is optional. But with you being motivated AP students, I'm willing to bet that you probably have engaged in some sort of activities and have received some honors in or out of school. So if you have been a member of clubs, sports, religious organizations, community organizations, especially if you've had a leadership role, you would definitely want to put those sorts of things down. You would want to put the amount of time you were involved in said organization. Obviously, if you're involved in many organizations for many years, it definitely makes you seem like a more well-rounded person, a person who can manage their time well if they're juggling all these different responsibilities than if you did like, one thing 1 year and then, kind of give it up. Honors. So this could be like academic honors. Our school doesn't really have like an official honor role, but if you've had some sort of academic honor paid to you, definitely, once you graduate, if you've graduated like summa cum laude or magna cum laude, then those would be things to put on there. It could be a community honor or honor from an organization. I was a Girl Scout back in the day, so I got my silver award and my gold award, and they were community service awards, showing that I was a good person who did community service stuff. So, yay. All right. Final things that you can add that I am not requiring for you to add unless you just really want me to look at them. References page. A reference page typically has 3 people's contact information. You want to choose 3 people who know you pretty well and can speak to your positive qualities, but you want them to be people that are not related to you. So if you put your mommy as a reference, it will not be quite as impressive as if you put a former employer or a coworker or a teacher. Since you guys are in high school, it's completely legitimate to put teachers to speak to your work ethic and dedication. I mean, we see you all the time. We definitely know what you're like as a worker. Cover letter. Cover letters are standard for some jobs, and for some jobs, they are never necessary. So I had to write a cover letter to get this job, but there's many careers out there where you don't necessarily have to have one. If you do ever have to have one, I have some guides about how to write a cover letter. So here's the paragraphs of a cover letter. This is kind of what a cover letter looks like. It's just basically expressing your interest in the position, showing that you believe that you have certain skills, indicating to them that you're going to contact them. That's basically purpose of cover letter. All right. Other things besides resumes that can be important. Social media technology is becoming more important. Having a positive social media presence can be crucial for some jobs. So there are some professional social media organizations, but also if you have like a public, Facebook or Instagram account or Twitter account, you want to be careful about the stuff that you have on there. If you have a future employer who like checks out your social media presence and they see really inappropriate or hateful things posted on your social media accounts, it is highly likely that they will decide not to hire you because of that. So just be really careful about your presence. And if you are going to post, not safe for work stuff, make it private, lock it down so that no one will think that you are too obscene for a future work position. Okay, fast forwarding through cover letter stuff. References, just a reminder, a little bit more detail about references. Some more stuff about references. Here are just some general links. OWL at Purdue, great resource. They have some stuff on resumes if my presentation was not specific or you just want some more examples to look at. And interview tips. If you have to go for an interview, there still is a fairly rigid dress code for interviews. You want to dress for the job that you want. Women and men, there's certain expectations for how you will present yourself. If you defy those expectations, just be aware that you may be giving a bad impression. First impressions are important. You, of course, should not engage in any distracting behavior while you're in your interview. Like maybe you bring your cell phone, but it should be like on silent. You should not be checking text messages and stuff while you're in the middle of the interview. That would be horribly, horribly rude and inappropriate. I personally, am obviously not opposed to tattoos, but if you do choose to get a tattoo and you are concerned that the first impression might impact professionalism, maybe you cover them up for the interview and, hopefully your workplace is tattoo friendly. But I assume most of you don't have tattoos. Let's see. Yeah, don't be chomping gum while you're talking to somebody. Rude. Let's see. Yeah, just some more tips, some kind of checklist. We talked about, nonverbal communication. Make sure to accommodate your interviewer and give them lots of that nonverbal communication, especially if they are older and have different standards about nonverbal politeness. Here are some common interview questions. If you have an interview coming up and you want to kind of see, what sort of things commonly get asked, there's the general ones, the ones that make sense. What characteristic do you feel a leader possesses? Sure, that could show me something about you and your personality. And then there's some weird ones. If you were an animal, which one would you want to be? So hopefully you don't get any super bizarre interview questions, but some companies were known for asking really strange questions. I think Google was one of them. They had some really bizarre interview question that they would typically ask their employees. But anyways, that's all for interview tips and tricks and other life skills. So I bestow all this information upon you with the understanding that you really only need to worry about the resume for the purposes of this class. So the other stuff is just bonus stuff in case you have a life circumstance that will make those things relevant. So that's all for week 5, Wednesday. And Thursday and Friday, we'll pick back up with Fahrenheit 451 and continue, albeit with slightly shorter reading sections.